What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures chapter review. Today, guys, we are going to be going over chapter 10 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures manga. I am very excited to get into this. Man, we are down 10 chapters deep into this manga, and I've been enjoying this manga so far, and I'm very excited to be continuing this journey, and hopefully we can catch up very soon. We're not that far behind. I believe 9 chapters behind. There's 19 chapters. I actually did some research today and found another source where I can read chapters for 14 through 19. The one I was using was an old version of it, and it only went up to chapter 13. But now I have found something so we can get up to chapter 19. So we're halfway towards catching up to where the manga is at this point. So I'm very excited to get into the discussion. I'm very excited to keep going on through this OCG structure journey, and I hope you guys have been enjoying this journey as well. So without further ado, guys, let's not waste any more time, and let's get right into this chapter review. So, what were my general thoughts on this chapter? I like this chapter. This chapter was more focused on shifting the card game to a next level. Up to chapter 9, we were still stuck on the Master Rule 4 format, as around this time when the OCG Structures manga was out, we were still on Master 4. However, this chapter is the shifting point for that, as in this chapter, we are getting introduced to the Master Rule 5 set. Now we're actually getting to the current Master Rule set that in the actual real life card game. So we're pretty caught up at this point in terms of how the sets are. Actually, we are at the point of Rise of the Duelist, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit later because we see the Rise of the Duelist cards that were in Rise of the Duelist shown in this episode as well. But let's get into the actual chapter review. So it starts off Miss Guide, and I'm just going to call her that because it's more easy to remember. I think her actual name is like Des or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but I'm just going to call her Miss Guide because it's easier for me to remember, and they've always been making that joke, and I absolutely love the joke, so why not? But she was talking about that there is going to be a new change to the Master Rule set, and that she was going to hold an exhibition match to basically show off this new way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And she was asking people who in the duel, none of them were really wanting to do it. Strong didn't want to do it because he wants to learn the format first before he really wants to do anything. Light didn't bring her deck. She only came there because Shoma, which I really hope this isn't the case. I really hope that this isn't going to be a thing for her character, that she's just only going to do stuff if Shoma is there. I really hope that that's not just the only thing. So I don't know, maybe I'm just looking too much into that, but moving from that point, you have a little funny moment with Dark. In fact, he's in love with Miss Guide, which I think is absolutely funny. I'm going to be completely honest. They made a whole joke about this, and then you have Shoma, which I'm not surprised he's just shaking, and he says, "I'll duel," which obviously, who didn't think that Shoma was wanting to do this? This is a kid that absolutely loves dueling. There's no way he's going to pass up the chance to be held in the first Master Rule 5 duel in this exhibition match. And Dark kind of gets mad at him because he thinks he's trying to take his girl away from him, and Miss Guy decides to duel Shoma, and also kind of talks about how, this is his sister, and it sounds like she kind of was mentored behind a Giha, which was very, very interesting. I was actually not expecting something like that, to be completely honest. I didn't think they actually knew each other, to be completely honest, but as you were reading through the chapter, she does state that she has been dueling a Giha, and I believe she has lost. I think she did lose against a Giha in her duels. I think she might have pulled off one win. I can't really remember off the top of my head. I didn't write it down like an idiot, so my bad on that part. But she thinks she's going to take this opportunity to actually challenge the brother of Akia, which makes complete sense. And also you have Dark coughing up blood as usual because, he basically was rejected from being able to duel his lover, basically. But we get into the duel. Miss Guide starts the turn, and we get to see her deck, which is an Emancipator deck. Are you kidding me? An Emancipator deck. I shouldn't be surprised, to be completely honest, but an Emancipator deck. Now, I'm going to actually say this. I'm going to be completely honest. I've played a lot of duels online, and I've faced some meta decks. I've faced Eldritch before. I faced Dinos before. I faced Salamangreats when they were rarely popular. Altergeist I faced as well. Like, I've faced a couple of meta decks, but I'm going to say this. I have never faced Eldritch. I'm going to be completely honest. Is the amount of times that I played, and I actually played it quite a bit. I had never faced an Eldritch, and they were a very popular deck as well. So I don't know how in the world I never faced the deck, because I remember reading this, because I know Emancipators. I've seen them before, but I never knew the duel style. I knew a lot of people joked around about it because it was such a powerful deck in its time. I think it is still a pretty good deck. I could be wrong. I haven't, again, faced it, so I don't really know if it's still in the meta to this day. I have really no idea, so my apologies for not knowing that, but I've never had the chance to actually face them, so what can I really say? But this is the deck she ends up using, and I think Emancipators are pretty cool. She starts off by activating her field spell, Emancipator Laputi. I don't know, Laputite. I don't know why I cannot pronounce the name of it. It makes it to where rock monsters gain 500 attacks. Actually, no, I know one thing. I think the deck actually did get a lot weakened because of the banning of Block Dragon. I totally forgot about Block Dragon. Man, there's a reason why I wanted to forget that. Block Dragon was so broken. I remember when that deck was actually in there. I didn't actually face Emancipators, but I knew about Block Dragon, and I'm so glad that that card got banned. I'm really glad that that card got banned, and that I never had to face it, because it basically was able to draw a lot of cards, and it was just really, really broken. So yeah, I kind of need to get rid of it, which she doesn't use it in this duel. I think she just uses a full force Emancipator deck. So yeah, not really much to say. And the whole deck concept about this deck is being able to send cards back to her deck, and kind of like being able to excavate cards from her deck, which is a very interesting kind of deck. It's interesting, to say the least. I don't know really how to describe it, but it is an interesting type of deck. So she summons Emancipator Analyzer, activates the effect of an Annihilator. I don't know why I can't say the names today. She's able to excavate the top 5 cards in her deck, and it special summons Emancipator, Crystal Leon, and then the remaining 4 cards from her the 4 remaining cards go to the bottom of her deck. Then she activates the effect of Emancipator Crystal Leon to take Emancipator Crystal Dragonite from her hand and places it on the top of her deck. And then Strong kind of makes a comment about this deck, and Shoma basically kind of explains it, because Strong is always behind when it comes to this stuff. You know, that's always been the joke with him. And yeah, and then also Light makes a kind of a comment, kind of making fun of him, which you gotta feel bad for Strong. He gets so much crap when it comes to dueling. I really hope that this kid really gets a win throughout the series. But she then summons an Emancipator Seeker from her hand, activates its effect, and then uses it to activate 5 cards. And then special summons the Emancipator Crystal Draker. She returned to the deck earlier, and then the remaining 4 cards go to the bottom of her deck. Then she uses the first effect of Emancipator Crystal Dragonite to draw 1 card, and then goes into her first Synchro Summon, as she uses Emancipator Crystal Leonis and Emancipator Seeker to go into her Synchro Summon of Emancipator Prison Leonis, or Leonite, excuse me. Really like the design of this monster, even though it's in black and white and it's not in the color. I really think this is a cool monster design. She places it in the extra monster zone, which I'm going to say this, in the Master Rule 4 format, never do that. I really mean it. Do not ever do that. Because if you ever did that with Master Rule 4 and you put a Fusion Synchro Xyz monster in there, you're locked out of your extra deck. You cannot summon any more extra deck monsters, because basically the biggest change that was so important with this was because Link monsters basically locked the rest of the summoning mechanics in the extra deck from being utilized as much as they used to, which I know the reason why was because they were trying to slow down the game a lot more, but it was kind of sad that you had to use Link monsters when you wanted to actually go and play one of these decks that use like Xyz, Synchro, or Fusion. So with Master Rule 5, it changes that all up, and we will get to that in just a second. But continuing on with the duel, sorry for that little bit of discussion, she uses the effect of Emancipator Risen Leonite, excavates the top 5 cards from her deck, and adds Emancipator Signs to her hand, and then sends the remaining 4 cards to the bottom of her deck. Then, this is where things start to shift, as she then goes into her second Synchro summon, Emancipator Prison Dragonite. Summons the second one. Well, no, I think that's a different one, because it's... No, it's the same one. I don't know what I'm talking about. But she goes into a second Synchro summon. Shoma is surprised at this because he already knows that you can't summon it to the main monster zone. He was confused in why she was able to summon it to the main monster zone. And this is when she goes into the talk about how the new Master Rule system works, which I already explained it, so I'm not going to go over it. In fact, it's cool because we actually see it. Like, if you look in the guidebooks from, like, if you buy the structure deck, I think this is no. This is actually this is literally the shot that you got from Jump Festa, because this is when we got the announcement of Master Rule 5 coming out, was during Jump Festa, not this last Jump Festa that we had, but the one before that. And this is literally the exact same shot. You have Stardust Dragon, Utopia, and Flame Wingman. I think it's really cool that they show those monsters. And Shoma kind of gets happy about this, and they kind of all get excited about this whole thing. And I'm going to be honest, I think if any character out of the 4 main ones that really got a benefit from this is actually Dark. You look at his deck, it was a Math Mech deck, and Math Mechs don't really rely on Synchro monsters, or excuse me, they rely on Synchro monsters. They don't rely on Links. In fact, they don't have a single Link monster in their entire deck. So if you needed to use Link monsters, that's the way you got it. But most of the effects of the Math Mech decks, especially Final Sigma, rely on the extra monster zone, so you would never be able to Link summon anyway. But with this change now, he can summon his Xyz monsters and Synchro monsters into the main monster zone if he wants to. And the other ones do gain benefit too. I think the only one that really doesn't gain anything in particular to this is Light. But the only reason that is because she uses ritual monsters, and ritual monsters really don't affect it. Sure, she uses Link monsters as well, but Link monsters don't change, so she doesn't gain a benefit from this whole deck change. Shoma kind of gets it, depends on the deck. If you play this Tenny still, it doesn't really do anything. I mean, Tennies still have to work the same way, and that's another thing that they actually don't mention. Pendulums and Links are still locked by Link rules, where you have to summon it next to a Link monster's Link in order to use that summoning method. So, yeah, that kind of sucks. They kind of got screwed in Master Rule 5, but it makes sense, because if you release them and let them go wild, the game's going to be absolutely disgusting. It's going to be very, very broken. So they really needed to balance this. But we go into Shoma's turn, and he activates the field spell, Galloping Gaia. Galloping Gaia. Not focusing on the galloping part, but Gaia. During the whole transformation from the last time he dueled, which was in episode 8, to now this chapter, he changed his deck again to a Gaia deck. A Gaia deck, guys. This is so cool. This is probably my favorite deck. Obviously, if anyone, I'm pretty sure every Yu-Gi-Oh fan knows where Gaia is from. That it was a classic card that Yugi Moto used back in Duel Monsters. Everyone knows Gaia the Fierce Knight. I mean, who doesn't, really? Who does not know Gaia the Fierce Knight? I mean, come on. But we get to see a scene where he actually goes into the structure world, and we get to meet the Gaia monsters, because with Rise of the Duelists, which is the pack that got released around the time of Master Rule shifting as well, so it kind of makes sense of where the placement of this as well. But this is around the time that Rise of the Duelists was around, and this was a lot of Gaia support, so I'm not surprised that Shoma ended up using this deck. We do actually get to see all the different forms of it. We see Soldier Gaia, the Fierce Knight. We see Gaia, the Magical Knight. We also do see, and I was surprised at this, Gaia Saber, the Lightning Shadow, which if you guys don't know that monster, it was the Link monster variant of Gaia. In fact, if you watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, Playmaker actually used it when he was still in his unknown phase. He used to use a warrior deck. In fact, we saw cards like Photon Thrasher, which obviously was a card that was used by Kite. We saw Marauding Captain, which was a card that was seen quite a bit in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX a couple of times. And then he used Etrion Universe, goes into a Link summon and summons this Lightning Saber, or Gaia Saber Lightning Shadow. So it's really cool, and there's another Gaia there. I don't know which Gaia that is, to be completely honest. I think that might be the Exceeds one. I could be completely wrong on that one, but that's just my thought. And then also you see Obligatory Catapult Turtle, which another classic card by UK. I mean, what's cool about the recent sets is all of the anime love support to these decks. I mean, with Rise of the Duelist, you got the Gaia cards, which was used by Yugi. The next deck, Phantom Rage, had support from Phantom Knights, Yutos, Raid Raptors, Shun or Shays cards. Then you had Blazing Vortex that had Armed Dragon support, so you got Manjomi or Chaz. You got Wind Witch, was for Rin. Then you got Lightning Overdrive, which had Yuma support in it in terms of his Zexal weapon cards. We got at Ignister support, we got a new Black Rose monster. In Selection 10, we got Sanavalon cards and a new Galaxy Eyes monster. I mean, the whole anime just gets some love with these card packs as well. We also got Dawn Thousands cards printed. Literally, I just mentioned like every single video that I've done on my channel, except for the stuff for Rise of the Duelist, but I wasn't doing that kind of content when Rise of the Duelist was a thing. So, and in fact, I don't think I was on YouTube yet. I was on a 7th-month break from YouTube around this point, and that's when Rise of the Duelist was released, so that kind of makes sense why I never did it, but that's not the point. We don't look at the past, but he ends up having a discussion with this. I really do love these scenes, and I really do hope we see a couple more of these scenes, because this makes it feel like the anime that we all love about the animes, like these more like non-realistic stuff, and I feel like it's a good balance, honestly. I don't think I've mentioned this the other times that Shoma has actually gone into the structure world, but I think this is a good balance between them, and I think it puts a cool perspective on how deck building really is. They kind of make it more of a fun way on how to build decks. I really do like the way they have been doing this, but he has a conversation with this. We even see Curse of Dragons, the Cursed Dragon, which was a new Cursed Dragon version of the original one that we saw. Actually, it is used in this duel as well, and we get back into the duel after they had this conversation, and we get back into the duel. Shoma normal summons Arbitrary Catapult Turtle, tributes itself with its first effect, and is able to summon Gaia, the Magical Knights, from his deck, and then uses its effect to call forth Cursed Dragon, the Curse of Dragons, the Cursed Dragon, which uses its effect to add Spiral Fusion from his deck to his hand, which is the Gaia spell card of this deck. Then uses it to summon Gaia, the Magical Knight of Dragons. Really love the design of this monster. If you've actually seen it in their card game, I really do love the design of this. I really need to try to find a way to get it. I never bought any packs from Rise of the Duelist, and I feel like that's kind of a sin for me. I really want to get to this. I want to get this new Gaia Saber monster. I think it looks absolutely cool. I even like the spell card. It's a little bit simple, but I think it looks really, really cool. And actually, too, I think this is the first fusion summon. I kind of mentioned this back in the Yuga versus, or Shoma. Oh my gosh, I realized I've said Yuga, I think, a couple of times. My mistake. Watching 3 different Yu-Gi-Oh! Types of medias is hard, man. I'm sorry. But Shoma fusion summons, which is the first time I believe we have seen fusions. We've seen Synchro Monsters. Shoma and Dark have used it. Exceeds, same scenario. We've seen Ritual Monsters. Light uses it. And now we have fusion summoning. Oh, and Agia used Xyz as well. I forgot that as well. And then now this is the first fusion summon. So we have now seen all. Oh, and then Links as well, which everyone used Links, I think, except for Strong, if I remember correctly. But I could be wrong about that. That duel was like in the first and second chapters. So It's been a minute since I've seen that one, but now also kind of now thinking about it, Shoma has now used every summoning mechanic except for Ritual and Pendulum, of course, which we haven't seen a Pendulum monster. That is the only one that we still haven't seen. I don't know if we're going to see Pendulums. I really hope we do. I mean, Pendulums have been given not as much love anymore as they used to after Arc 5. Like, after Arc 5, like, Pendulums just dropped. Pendulums never showed up in Brains. You have no Pendulum so far in this arc in the first 10 chapters, and we have seen every other summoning mechanics besides Pendulum monsters. So I don't know what's going to actually happen with Pendulum monsters, to be completely honest. I mean, we've had Pendulum support before. I know there was a structure deck that was released for Pendulum summoning, or for Pendulum monsters, I should more say. But they seem to not really been given that much love, and it makes me feel bad for Pendulums. I actually do like Pendulums. I think they're a really cool concept. I like the whole concept of having like this pendulum effect that you can use as well, so it kind of makes you have to think whether you think it's worthy of summoning a monster to your field, or do you think it's better being in your Pendulum zone, and is it going to benefit you? So, yeah, Pendulums really get screwed, but he's able to summon this monster. Really think it's a cool monster. He uses the effect of Spiral Fusion, in which grants his magical Knight of Dragons an additional 2600 attack, so it raises it up to 5200 attack, and it gains the ability to be able to attack twice. But for that, though, he activates the second effect of Cursed Dragon from his graveyard, which is able to switch. At first, let me actually do it in order. I think this would make a lot more sense. She changed the second effect of Emancipator Risen Leon, special summoning an analyzer back from the graveyards, but Shoma used that effect, which makes all the monsters on the field have their effects negated until the end of the turn. So she really can't do that. Then he goes into a Link. Well, he doesn't go for a Link summon actually in this duel. I thought he did at first because he did mention Link, but he mentioned that he was using the new rules of the sets as he actually places the monster in the main monster zone, and this actually is a pretty smart strategy in terms of Shoma. Even though he doesn't play any cards, he saves the extra monster zone. Like I mentioned earlier, you cannot use you can't use Link monsters like you can with Fusion Synchros and Xyz. They're still locked to how Master Rule 4 worked. So, saving your extra monster zone is very prevalent for this deck to even work with Link monsters. So, smart move on him for using the benefits of this. He uses Magical Knight to attack Leonites, and uses Leonite's third effect, which is able to gain even more attack points, and then attacks again, and basically that's it. He is able to deal a very good amount of damage, gets her all the way down to 1400 life points, and that's basically it. He ends his turn there, and that's where we're at in the end of the chapter. She is really impressed at Shoma and is not surprised at his strength, but she is ready to put on an assault against Shoma. So, really good chapter. I feel like the shift was really good. I like the whole exhibition concept that they decided doing with this. I think was a really cool idea, and how to introduce it instead of just like people seeing it on the television or something like that. I feel like doing this in this exhibition style is a really cool way to show it off in this manga. And I've been enjoying the duel so far, and other than that, that's going to be it. There's nothing really much else. We just got to wait for the next episode to go into the duel, to continue this duel. I think Shoma's going to win, to be completely honest. You know, I think we still need some distance after that whole Tendo duel that ended up happening. Remember, he did end up losing to Tendo, so I think maybe it's still probably good to have him win this duel and then maybe lose some other time in the future. But I don't think this is the time right now. I think it's still pretty too soon. Even though I do think that Misguide still has a chance to win this duel, but honestly, if I had to put money on it, I think it's going to be Shoma. But that's going to be it for this chapter review, guys. A little bit on the longer side, but you know what? There was actually quite a bit. Even though this was just a dueling episode, I think explaining the Master Rule 5 took a little bit, but also kind of the duel. I was kind of surprised at Emancipator. I really had to read this deck a couple of times to even get it, and I don't think I still got the full capability of this deck. I don't even think I know the full capability yet until we go into the next chapter, so we had to wait and see in terms of that, but it was really cool to see Emancipators for the first time in my experience. Again, I've never faced Emancipators in the real life card game, so it was a little bit weird learning them from the first time, and I can't wait to see how powerful it is, because even though we see this for the first time, I haven't really seen as much as people were saying, but again, she doesn't use something like Block Dragon in this duel yet, or at least not right now, so we would just have to wait and see. But guys, that is going to be it for this chapter review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys' thoughts on this chapter was. Did you like this chapter? Were you mad about it, or did you not really like it? What did you guys think of the shift of Master Rule 4 and Master Rule 5? Do you think it was a cool idea with the exhibition? Did you think it was just, okay, it was just there, it was a cool idea, I guess? Or would you just rather prefer do something else, like maybe they just showed it as something on the news or something like that, or some kind of thing like that? Love to know all your guys' thoughts on this chapter down below. But guys, that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.